Hello and welcome to Happy Horror Time. My name is Tim Murdoch.
And my name is Matt Emmert, and this is our bonus episode that we have decided to release to all listeners. Why, Tim? Ask me.
Because it's spooky season.
Well, because every now and then, if you've noticed, if you've listened to the Patreon clips, we've released little clips from our bonus episodes just to give you a little taste.
Yeah.
Little crumb. But this is just such an, all appealing to all film for the season, and we kind of want listeners to hear how we do our bonus episodes, so this whole episode will be available to everyone. And I couldn't be more excited to talk about my favorite horror movie of all time
in the world,
1978's Halloween.
Yay.
Tim and I were talking, and we've been doing the podcast for, we got serious about 3 years ago.
Were we not serious in 2017?
No, we weren't. We were doing like one episode every 6 months on our cell phones. That was our professional. So if you listen to episodes 1 through 19 and are wondering why do they sound different, that's why.
Because I sounded, really young.
Oh my God, you were so young.
My voice hasn't matured.
You weren't even like 44.
That's true.
True. No, I mean, I wasn't even 40. Or maybe but we, in all the years, so just so you know, for our bonus episodes, we usually put them up to a vote and we do a theme that incorporates movies from the past, because all our regular episodes are movie reviews of new horror movies. So we'll come up with, we had Killer Cars, which was Christine and Death Proof. We had Deadly Dances, which was Prom Night. And what was the other one? What was the other dance? Carrie.
I love to dance.
Yeah, so we always do all those big classics from the past, and we've talked about the original Friday the 13th before, Tim's favorite.
The best film in the world. This movie that we're talking about today, don't even compare.
Yeah, so I said to Tim, I was like, we've never talked about Halloween, and I was just like, you know what, for October, let's have a bonus episode that's completely dedicated to Halloween, because we also do 2 movies in our bonus episodes, but today we are focusing on the seminal slasher classic. Do you like the word seminal?
Started it all.
Does it sound too much like semen for you?
I mean, it is. You're gross.
This is the night that he came home, Tim. Who?
Michael Myers.
Now say it like Josh Hartnett in H2O.
Michael Myers.
Mom, I'm really not comfortable with you saying that word. Well, then don't put me in the position, John.
We ain't talking about H2O.
No, we are not. We are talking about the original, and I'm so happy because we've even talked about Halloween 2. We talked about Halloween Resurrection. Remember sequels that suck? That was one of our bonus episodes, and we did Jason X and Halloween Resurrection. Remember that?
Yeah, I mean, as a Friday 13th lover, I do not love Jason X.
Yeah, that was a sequel that sucked. What's another sequel if you had to pick the sequel that sucked the most in the Nightmare on Elm Street series, which would you pick?
Freddy's Dead.
The remake.
Oh,
I mean, that's not a sequel.
The remake is better than Freddy's Dead's it's a different tone.
Part 5.
It's a little slower.
Anyway, but that's not what we're talking about. So it's October. It's spooky season. It's the month of pumpkins and witches and ghosts. Oh my.
Lattes.
It's lattes, pumpkin spice. Tim's out of Starbucks.
Like cute hats and scarves.
What's your Starbucks order, by the way, Tim?
Oh, I get a caramel macchiato.
Do you get a low foam, no sugar?
I don't. You think I know how to order Starbucks?
You're like, hey, just give me. Do you know what I always do? I always say, hey, give me something sweet with a lot of caffeine. I usually get that because I don't know coffee
When
either.
I say give me something sweet, it's hopefully a gay guy and they give me their number.
Oh,
I'm kidding. You think I'm assertive? I'm not assertive.
You're like, hey, do you get what I used to give him funny names to say anyway. Anyway, that is neither here nor there. We are talking about 1978's Halloween. So before we start and go through the movie and break down every character, every bit, every scare, every, kill, I want to know if you remember the first time you saw Halloween.
Yes. I got it from our local library.
I love that because you've done that before. You've told me that.
Well, because
it's cute that you used to go to the library to rent movies. People today don't know that about
I know.
That.
Well, I remember it very clearly. It was the day I saw it was the day they released the trailer for it was on E. Remember E?
The network?
Yeah.
Oh, it still exists.
I know, but for some reason it's kind of fallen to the wayside.
Yeah.
They released the trailer for Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Oh, so this is 94 you saw Halloween?
Yeah.
So you were already 16 or something, right? 18?
17?
Oh my God. How did you wait that long? You were a horror fan as a kid.
I mean, I guess I should preface when I watched it straight through. Like, I mean, I remember watching it as a kid and I just remember thinking it was grainy and old. I was just like, this ain't no Friday 13th.
Because that 2 years after that Friday the 13th came out.
Fresher,
so the first time all the way through the original Halloween, you rented it from the library at 17.
And I remember I was watching the trailer for Wes Craven's New Nightmare over and over and over and over like a crazy person. And so then I remember I stopped that and I put in my TV VCR, which I had in my bedroom because, you know, I was like a hip 17-year-old.
Hip. And then the music came on.
And I thought, I love the music. I absolutely love the score. Love it. And I actually had the tapes for this, for Halloween 5.
I had the cassette for Halloween 5. I had the cassette tape soundtrack for Halloween, but like I was hoping for some crazy big story and then you love, but this isn't,
it's not doing anything for you.
No, it just, I know it didn't have the impact that it had on you because that it had on me, but it's just because Friday the 13th had that impact on you. For me, and I think I've told some of this story on the podcast, but I'll tell a little bit more now. I was 11 years old. I was coming home from karate practice because I was in karate, and my mom, who we've had on the podcast with your mom, she loves horror movies, and she says, hey, Halloween, a horror movie is on TV. She knew I loved horror movies, so we sat down and watched it together, the TV version.
What network was it on?
Channel 5, which in California, KCAL 5.
Oh my God.
Was a normal, it was like a Thursday night movie or something, but I sat down and I watched it with my mom with commercials, TV version, so it had those extra scenes. So by the way, if you know Halloween, you know that John Carpenter added a few extra scenes to fit the TV version.
They used to film all movies with TV versions.
But you know what's funny is that's the first version I saw. So when I finally saw the full version, I was like, what happened to those scenes? But anyway, I just remember, first off, the music was terrifying. It was just all the music, the theme, Laurie's theme, everything was terrifying. And I remember every part of seeing Michael like following her home in the backyard outside school. I was so terrified and I loved it so much. But what I also remember is right after the movie ended, they had an interview with Jamie Lee Curtis. Now this is 1991. I was 11. God. And she just, I always remember this. She was talking about how when they filmed the closet scene, she was in the closet and she's screaming. She was genuinely scared. And I just remember because that was like, news at 11, you know, talking to the star of Halloween. But after that, I was in 7th grade, I think. I became obsessed with the movie. I rented the sequel. I rented 4 and 5. I skipped 3.
Season of the Witch.
And then I showed all my friends. And then we created a haunted house in my garage for that Halloween. And I dressed up as Michael Myers. I got the mask. I got the cassette tape soundtrack. And I became obsessed. Everyone who knew me growing up knew, like, Matt, Halloween. And I feel like that's still me. I'm now 43 years old. It's 33 years later, and I'm still associated with this movie. That's
absolutely.
How big.
Like, I mean, I know that you have Halloween. When it's Friday 13th, I get messages like,
exactly,
hey, Tim, happy Friday 13th.
Because people associate you with that, and that's the thing.
Isn't it weird that we're associated with homicidal maniacs?
I thought you were going to say homosexual maniacs.
Aren't you? Isn't it weird that we're homosexuals?
I mean, to me, it's more, I look at it as the movies, not just the maniac. It's not just, like, I don't only associate you with Jason, I associate you with Friday the 13th, but
do you
I think it's cool.
associate me with the Final Girls?
Betsy Palmer.
What about Melanie Kinnaman?
I mean, all Friday the 13th Final Girls, I feel like we've had so many of them on the podcast now. I feel like I know them too. You know, isn't that weird?
Yeah, of course.
People associate me with Jamie Lee Curtis, but I've also had 4 different run-ins with her. I met her at a children's book signing, and I stayed back at I was 23 to get her to sign stuff. She signed my Scream Queens jersey when our friend Jared Hall was interviewing her and got her to sign it. I had that run-in just last year where we went to her speaking and I answered a question, so she gave me her talent badge and signed it. And there was that time where she tweeted something and I replied and said, you know, I loved her. And then someone like replied to me and said she only did the Halloween movies for money. And she replied to them and called them a grumpy goat. Remember that? And BuzzFeed picked it up and did an article about that. So I've had so many run-ins with Jamie Lee Curtis that like it has to be in the universe for us to have her on the podcast sometime. Right?
I mean, you know, my fingers are crossed.
Are your toes crossed?
Yeah.
Anyway, so everyone that knows Halloween knows this is my favorite movie, this series, everything. So every time when H2O came out, I did a marathon before, had all my friends go to see it, my family. When 2018 came out, remember we did a theater takeover. We had 45 people there. We took a picture outside the theater. So Halloween has been with me forever. I love the holiday, the movie, everything. And now we get to break this shit down.
Yes. And you know what, Matt? Your enthusiasm is contagious.
Thank you, Tim, because I knew, here's the thing. I know Tim likes Halloween, but I know it's not like the great. And it's okay. No, but I know it's not like the greatest thing in the world for you like it is for me. It's okay. You hate me and you hate the podcast and you hate Halloween.
I've been meaning to tell you, F off. My enthusiasm for Halloween is Halloween 4. I think it's the best one. I think Ellie Cornell's the best final girl. I mean, I love JLC, of course.
You just pissed off so many enthusiasts that love the original. No, Halloween 4 is one of my favorite sequels. I love Ellie Cornell.
Scene, I watched over and over and over.
But nothing for me beats the original and Jamie Lee Curtis. But with that, should we get started into the plot?
Let's break it.
Okay, so the movie, and here's the thing, like for people today, younger people today that only know recent horror movies, when you watch the original Halloween, a movie that came out in 1978, you are going to think it's old and slow. But guess what? Like, you got to watch it with the perspective of this was one of the first slasher movies that really set the precedent for the genre. And what John Carpenter wanted to do was not have like a gore fest and not after kill, but he wanted to build suspense slowly, a slow burn. He set out to do that. This isn't Saw. This isn't even Friday the 13th. It's not meant to be kill after kill after kill.
It is well documented that Friday the 13th is a blatant ripoff of.
Oh yeah, Sean Cunningham called Victor.
How can we do this?
Victor Miller. Anyway. The movie starts, it has just opening credits. This was before Scream and the whole opening scene thing. So you just see a pumpkin and it just plays that theme and it just plays the credits. It's very simple, but it's just so creepy, gets you in the mood. And at the end of the credits, you hear kids doing like a Halloween rhyme. I guess it's like
da, 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 da.
Witches and goblins, and you're probably right. Black cats and goblins on Halloween night, trick or treat. And then you see.
Wow, I'm impressed, Matt.
I should know the whole thing. But it's
like if we were watching it, which we watched together many, many, many times. Yeah. If I just paused it randomly, would you know what was coming up next?
Of course. I've seen it. I've probably seen it 200 to 250 times. To be honest, I mean, I just remember 11 since I was 11. So yes, but I don't know the rhyme. So the first scene you see is something that John Carpenter was pretty instrumental in starting, the whole POV idea, which Friday the 13th did steal from, because we see the POV of someone who's walking up to a nicely lit house on Halloween night, and he's spying on his sister, and it's a teenage girl that's making out with her boyfriend, and they go upstairs to have the shortest sex ever.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I guess teenage boys are quick.
They're so funny because literally they go upstairs to fool around, and then maybe 30 seconds later, he's like, okay, gotta go, putting his shirt on.
Yes, putting his shirt on.
My favorite part about that scene is that she's like, will you call me tomorrow? And he's like,
yeah, sure.
He's like, yeah, sure. Like he had to think about it.
Very
like
today.
Can you imagine? What if he just walked out and said, no. Bitch. Don't think so.
And then this is when we get the big POV. It's Michael Myers walking around, but it's really Deborah Hill.
Yes. So you see someone walking around the house, creeping in. They take a knife out of a drawer, and it's a little hand, and it's supposed to be the hand of a kid's, but because they didn't have a kid there, Deborah Hill, the co-writer and producer, she used her hand, which really looks like a kid's hand.
It really does.
Oh my God. So then the POV, they put a clown mask over their eyes, and you see them sneak up to their sister who's combing her hair topless.
Topless.
Because I don't know about you, Tim. I comb my hair topless all the time.
I'm never topless. I'm constantly covered.
Only bottomless. Tim likes to comb his hair, dick hanging out. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Tim, your parents are listening. Hi, Darlene. Hi, Jim.
My parents don't know how to use podcasts.
Okay, well then, hi, Jamie. Hi, Trevor.
Sure.
And Lori. Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, they probably will listen to this.
Maybe.
They know Halloween. Yeah. Love you guys. Anyway, so they and then she turns and says, "Do it, Tim."
Michael.
And you see a little kid's arm stabbing his sister over and over and over again. And then he just goes out the door, and you see two parents pull up, and they pull the mask off, and you see it's a 6-year-old child.
Yeah.
Who just murdered his sister in a clown costume, and it kind of just like zooms out. And that's the big thing. And that took place in 1963. And then it immediately switches to 15 years later, October 30th, 1978. And we're introduced to one of our leads.
It says 1978, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't say like present day.
No. Oh my God, present day.
But that's like, what they do in Friday 13th.
I like that they put the date because let's be honest, this movie has aged. Yeah, but in a good way. But it's just there ain't no cell phones.
I've never told you this story. In 1996, I took my 3 friends to go see a midnight screening of Halloween.
Oh, did you just forget what movie we were talking about?
But I mean, it was right around like we just like maybe a week ago saw Scream, and we went to a midnight screening of Halloween. No. They were all like, "Hey, when's this over?" I know.
Those friends suck. Saying,
because it was like we were so used to Scream being fast-paced MTV kind of style movie, so readjusting.
It's different, but that's almost like watching Gone with the Wind or like even Silence of the Lambs, like a movie that for its time is incredible.
That's what I'm saying.
But I think Halloween is timeless. But people that love a certain type of horror think it's slow.
Honestly, it's for like The Exorcist, 1973, and like 50 years later.
People think that's boring too.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like if you capture it in your first, like The Exorcist was first, Halloween was first.
Yes, exactly. Like you're always going to, raise the bar, I guess. But anyway, so it switches to 15 years later and we're introduced to one of our leads, Donald Pleasence.
He got $100,000.
Yes. The budget for this film was like $350,000 and he got $100,000 of that.
So really the movie only,
He was the name actor because it was Jamie Lee Curtis's first movie. PJ Soles had been in Carrie but wasn't a big star. Nancy Loomis wasn't a big star. So Donald Pleasence was an established actor. So it's him and a nurse played by Nancy Stevens, and they're driving to Smith's Grove Sanitarium and talking about how Michael Myers has been in this mental hospital for 15 years. He's now 21, and they're going to be moving him to moving him to a court, or he's going on trial or something. All I thought was, what an odd day to move the patient. The day before he committed that murder.
During a storm.
During a storm, the day before Halloween, which was like the date he committed his crime. Probably a bad idea.
And she is smoking with the windows up.
She's smoking with the windows up. And you can tell Dr. Loomis has no compassion for this guy because he's referring to Michael Myers as it. He says he's pure evil. And the nurse is kind of like, what's your problem?
Well, she's puffing away.
She's like, give me another cigarette. So when they get up to the hospital, first sign of a little danger is all the patients are wandering around outside in their sheets.
She goes, "Oh, they let them out?"
Yeah, she says, "Since when did they let them wander around?" Hilarious. And he's like, "Oh fuck!" He's like, "Stay here. I gotta go make a call." Goes to a payphone. Yes, 1978. And while he's in the payphone, someone jumps on top of the car. And this is the first scary moment. I remember as a kid being terrified because you see a person jump on top of the car.
If you pause it just right.
You cannot see his penis. But what does the nurse do, Tim, which you should never do if a killer jumps on the top of your car? She rolls down the window.
That's right.
Tim, did we watch this?
We just watched it. But remember, my takeaway was like she was smoking with the windows.
I know. I love that. It is funny how people see different things. So, of course, he grabs her. She's driving all around. And then he breaks the window. And finally, she just runs out of the car. And what does he do? Steals the car.
Right. And, that's an amazing thing because Jason doesn't drive.
No. And the funny thing is they do have a line, which I'm glad that they talked about because people would nitpick the death, where it's like, if he's been in a mental hospital since he's been a kid, how did he learn to drive? And Dr. Loomis even says the next day, because one of the doctors says, for God's sake, he doesn't even know how to drive a car. And Dr. Loomis says, maybe someone here gave him lessons. I'm just glad they addressed that because it was kind of ridiculous that he perfectly drives away. But the next day, it switches then to our protagonist, our heroine, our final girl, Jamie Lee Curtis. You like I did that like you, Tim?
Yeah, please don't act like me acting like Oprah.
I know, and it says October 31st, 1978, Halloween. It's Halloween morning, and Jamie Lee Curtis is walking to school, and her dad says she needs to drop off a key at the Myers place because he's a realtor, and they're going to sell the house because everyone wants to buy the house of a child serial killer.
And then she is walking with a child.
Well, she runs into Tommy Doyle, which is like a neighborhood kid who she babysits. And do you remember how the types of questions he asks her?
He's like, can we do this? Can we do this? She's like, sure.
Yeah, he's like, because she's going to be babysitting him that night for Halloween because every kid's dream, not to go trick-or-treating, but to be babysat.
Well, yeah. obviously they didn't go trick-or-treating because
that's the thing. We never saw her take him trick-or-treating, but he does ask her why she's walking to the Myers house. And he says like,
that's the boogeyman's house.
Yeah. He says that's haunted. Awful stuff happened here. And Jamie Lee doesn't care one bit.
Again, I love the casting of this movie with Annie, PJ Souls,
Linda.
Again, she's 19 and the other girls are in their late 20s.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis was 19 at the time playing a teenager. PJ and Nancy Loomis were in their mid to late 20s playing a teenager, but you can't really tell.
No, you can't.
But Jamie Lee Curtis goes up to the door to drop the key off, and then you see that Michael is inside watching her.
And he
sees
did jump
her.
at your house.
Because, and the beauty of this movie is that for the first half to 2/3 of it, you only see him from the neck down, so it keeps it very scary and mysterious. You don't know what he looks like, if he's wearing a mask. It's really creepy.
Was he heavy breathing at that point?
Heavy breathing in every scene. So imagine you only see him from the neck down. He's wearing a mechanic's uniform. You hear heavy breathing.
Was
and
he
he's
tired?
Just watching her. No, he just has sleep apnea.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought.
You're like, he's
like, God, I'm old.
Yeah, and he follows her. So as the day goes on, there's a few run-ins. Jamie Lee Curtis is in class with the most boring teacher ever. Like whoever did that VO, I'm hoping John Carpenter said, can you sound like you want to put your students to sleep?
I looked at it as, remember Snoopy? Is it Snoopy? Wah, wah, wah.
It does feel like a want because she said, and fate. Now, the story is...
But, is that the first time she sees Michael Myers in class?
Yes. So what happens is Jamie Lee Curtis is a very good student. She's in the back, and she just glances outside, and she sees him standing across the street just staring at her. And again, as a kid, I remember thinking that was terrifying. If I see someone, and you can see his mask barely, in a scary mask just staring at you, and then she kind of looks away, looks back. He's still there staring at her.
It's so interesting that she didn't turn to her friend. She goes, but hey, what the hell?
I know. In me in school, I would have been like, oh my God, you see that weirdo?
Yeah, I know.
I don't think she has a ton of friends in class. Like
maybe she thought it's Halloween. It's just a man in a mask.
No, you're right. I will give you that. The first time she sees him, maybe it's someone playing a joke. I will get to what my feelings the next few times. But she gets asked by the teacher and of course answer a question. She answers it perfectly, and then she turns back and he's gone. So she probably's like, okay, no big deal, little creepy, but I'm good. We do switch to Dr. Loomis telling another doctor that he's positive Michael is on his way to Haddonfield. Nobody believes him. They're like, why would he drive 150 miles? And he's like, he's been wanting to go home. This is bad. And so Dr. Loomis sets out to find him to drive 150 miles to Haddonfield because he knows something's wrong.
Dr. Loomis parks in a handicap spot.
Yes, you do see that Dr. Loomis parked in a handicap spot. And
he looked a ticket.
Did he have a handicap sticker on his car? I didn't see
one.
We'll
never know.
Okay, Dr. Loomis. You're fired. No, it was. I guess he was just in a rush, but still, you're not supposed to do that, Tim.
I know. The movie is actually a really bad example of life.
There is a scene where he stops by a conveniently placed sign that says Haddonfield 73 miles or 93 miles.
That
and he's
is
in a
a perfect
payphone
sign.
trying to call the sheriff there to warn them. Of course, they don't believe him. He finds the sheet that Michael Myers had been wearing is torn off, and it's a gas station mechanic's car has been broken into. And on the ground, what does he see? The rabbit and red matches that the nurse was using to smoke. So he knows that Michael had been there. And then we, as the viewers, see, but you don't. You see a dead body.
The camera pans over and sees. He took his outfit, so he's naked.
Yeah, so the mechanic is naked. You don't see much, but Michael,
Bummer.
that's why he's in a mechanic's outfit. He didn't want to wear a sheet.
Right, he's like, this ain't cute.
So then we get introduced to Laurie's friends. Laurie's Jamie Lee Curtis. She's walking home. Her first friend that she's with is Linda. And Linda, played by PJ Souls, who we just had on the podcast.
Check it out, episode 170.
Yes, she is the bubbly cheerleader friend. All she can talk about is the dance tomorrow, and she loves the word totally. Do it, Tim.
Totally.
She's like, I have to get this. The dance is at 8 and da 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 da. And
all the women's dialogue was written by John Carpenter's girlfriend at the time, Deborah Hill.
Yes, and who was a great producer, a great co-writer, just involved so much. But then we run into Annie, who is their kind of like smart aleck friend, Tim's favorite.
Here's the problem. I not that it's even a problem. I actually think she does a wonderful performance, but everything she says is snarky and just
condescending.
Yes. And I don't think that's the actresses. She's just saying the words on the page.
I think it's the part.
It's there's I don't want to make a blanket statement and say she's annoying because I do like her performance.
her character is a little, whereas I felt like Linda is more, even though she's kind of ditzy, she's bubbly and fun. Annie is very snarky and condescending to Laurie, so she's a little more on the this is your good friend.
Yeah,
like deep down she must care about Laurie, but she treats her like she's a bully almost.
Yeah, I mean she's not bullies that on the Real Housewives.
Oh, you're right. They don't like to use it. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to use the word bully. I know Kyle Richards. So they're walking home, and we find out Linda and Annie are all about their boyfriends, and for Halloween night, Linda just wants to get with her boyfriend Bob and find a place to have sex, and Annie is going to be babysitting Lindsay Wallace across the street from Laurie, who's babysitting Tommy Doyle. And Laurie's all excited, and Annie's like, "Oh, great! I can either babysit or talk to you or listen to Linda have sex. Everything's blah blah." Daria, yeah,
la.
Yeah, so but Laurie's all excited, and you can tell. Oh, and while they're walking home, a car.
This scene is famous.
Creepy. A car drives by them, and you see, what do you know? It's the same guy in the mask that was staring at Laurie outside the school, and he's looking at her as he drives by. And
by the way, I hate that I say it, by the way. When Michael Myers drives by, as a kid, the VHS and I couldn't see his face. And if you watch it on a Blu-ray perfect picture, you could see the mask.
You can see it perfectly, and it's scary. And so as he drives by, Annie decides to yell, "Hey, jerk. Speed kills," which is a classic line. Now I have a t-shirt that says it, and he slams on the joke.
He slams on his jokes.
He slams on the brakes, and then Linda and Laurie are scared, and Annie says, "Gosh, can't you take a joke?" And apparently he heard that because then he takes off.
That movie taught me never yell at people, and especially in Los Angeles, because you know what?
They could be Michael Myers.
Yes.
I mean, when he stopped, you could tell that the other girls were scared. But it's funny because Laurie's like, "Someday you're going to get us in big trouble." And even Linda says, "Totally." Because
guess what?
Annie doesn't care. She don't care. And so
first off, I love that they because obviously in a lot of future horror films, it's always the guys that are like horny. These two girls are so horny.
My God. But you can tell from the beginning that these girls have one thing on their mind, sex with their boyfriends. And Laurie, she's the bookworm. She's already talking about she forgot books. She says that she has nothing to do the next night for the dance. There's just, and all the girls kind of laugh. They just know she's kind of like the nerdy Laurie, but she also is very attentive and resourceful, which is a lot more than only thinking about sex.
Right.
Which probably came in handy when a killer is coming after you. So Linda goes home, and then in one of the most famous scenes in the movie, there's a lot of them, but this always stands out to me. Annie's looking at her purse, and Laurie sees about 100 feet ahead of them, Michael standing next to a hedge, just staring at her.
Was it the same guy that she saw from when she was sitting in the classroom?
Yes, and in the I was like, what? No, it's another guy. There's a lot of Michael Myers, and this time she finally tries to get Annie to look, but by the time Annie looks up, he's disappeared, and she's like, "It's the guy that drove past us." And Annie, of course, being I'm fearless, runs up to the hedge. Of course, he's not there, and then she makes fun of Laurie and says, "Oh, he wants to ask you out tonight."
And then she goes, "Scared another one away."
Yeah, that's another line. She says, "Poor Lori, scared another one away." Can you imagine?
Does Annie have a line of guys lined up?
I know. Well, first off, I guess Annie has a boyfriend, so congrats. But we never get to see Paul, so we don't know how good that boyfriend is. Secondly,
we never get to see him.
Yeah, and secondly, can you imagine, if I said to you, "Oh, Tim scared another one," who says that to their
I'd be like, "Bitch."
Can you imagine? What if Lori just slapped her? Said, "You know what?"
I mean, the movie would change tones.
She slaps her and says, "Fuck off, bitch."
I would, wow.
So, but Annie makes sure Laurie knows, "Look, I'm picking you up later, so, in my car." So Laurie goes home. She runs into the sheriff, who's Annie's father. And I will say the way Sheriff Brackett says his line of "Wow, everyone's entitled to one good scare." It's just it's giving pervy adult. It just sounds pervy.
I didn't take it that way.
I don't know why. Maybe it's, "Excuse me, Laurie."
You're making him sound like a gay Muppet.
I'm gay Muppet. I'm sorry. I'm so dirty. I probably just think everything sounds pervy, but something always I found really pervy. If you think about it,
any line can sound filthy.
Look, watch Tim.
Okay.
"Hey, Tim." Okay, I sound like a gay Muppet. Let me try this. Tim, can you get that pencil for me?
Yeah, because pencil means penis. You're
right.
disgusting.
Okay, I'm okay. Anyway, so Lori goes home, and then this is where I'm done, like, call the police. She goes inside. She looks out her window and sees in the backyard next door Michael Myers with the mask staring at her among all of the clothes that's on laundry lines, just in the backyard staring at her. And she does look freaked out. She drops like the window pane and then he's gone. And I'm sorry, that's like 3 times in one day. Something's going on.
3 times too many.
But I do have to ask, like, Tim, pretend, because you walk a lot where you live. You see someone once that you think is looking at you, no big deal. You see them twice, you get a little on edge. If you saw them 3 to maybe 4 times, you'd probably do something,
Especially wearing a mask.
That's the thing. It's not just someone. And also, if Lori is Miss like bookworm, why would any of the people in school play jokes on her? I guess because she's the shy one. Like, I don't know what she's thinking, but she should be a little more alarmed.
She never, obviously I just watched this movie and you know this movie. She never talks about her friends about it.
No, she does. When she gets in the car with Annie, she says she saw someone staring at her.
That's right.
So Annie calls her, and first it's dumb because she hears her chewing and she's all scared, but then she says she's going to pick her up, and she does pick her up later. And it's funny because, and this is big for Lori, but like Annie has a joint and they both smoke it. So Lori ain't too bookwormy.
Right.
But that's when Lori tells Annie.
Okay, so they get in the car and they go to a what's the
hardware store.
The hardware store. It was broken into, and Annie's dad walks out and he says the most ludicrous line. He goes, "Oh, just a mask, a rope, and knives were stolen.
It must be kids."
Must be kids.
And watching it today, if it's hilarious the way he says that, and she says you blame everything on kids. If a knife, rope, and a mask were stolen, that sounds like a murderer.
Yeah, like I'm like, why are the 2 girls not freaking out? Why is the cop like?
I will say he hadn't talked to Dr. Loomis yet. I have a feeling when Loomis does talk to him, he probably thinks, okay, this is the killer stole it. But just for if it was kids, it'd be like costumes, money, and candy. You know, like not a rope, knives, and stuff.
Rope and knives is huge.
The best part is they had just smoked a joint in a car, and anyone who has smoked a joint in a car knows there's even a term for that. It's hotboxing the car. That smell is everywhere.
Yeah, it doesn't just go away.
And they go, and he does not even mention the pot. And of course, Lori's terrified that he smelled it. But Lori does tell Annie, I saw someone standing in, I think it's Mr. Riddle's backyard. And Annie's like, it probably was Mr. Riddle. And she's like, he's 83 or something. And then Annie's like, he can still watch. And I'm just like, I don't think an 80-whatever-year-old's wearing a Halloween mask staring at the girl next door.
You're never too old to celebrate
creepy.
or that.
You know what? It's Halloween. Everyone's entitled to one good scare.
Do you have a Michael Myers mask?
Of course.
Do you have a rope?
Do you have knives? Are you a kid? Okay, got it. Do I have a knife? Yeah, with a knife set. Do I have rope? I don't think we have rope. Except for when we go out for murders. I'm not going
to get murdered.
Yeah. Don't worry. I haven't robbed a hardware store yet.
I'm wearing a hockey mask as we do this.
So they go home, and Dr. Loomis has arrived in Haddonfield, and he does contact Sheriff Brackett, and he's telling Sheriff Brackett about Michael Myers. Dr. Loomis has all these great speeches. It's all about like, I met him 15 years ago and he had the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. And he's trying to explain to the sheriff that he's pure evil. And what I love about these movies is that no law enforcement member takes Dr. Loomis seriously. Either they think he's just being a fancy doctor or he's responsible for letting Michael out.
I mean, not that I'm giving credit to cops of a small town, but something like this probably doesn't happen every Halloween.
True, but if they knew that a 6-year-old boy 15 years ago killed his sister in cold blood on Halloween, that's enough to think crazy things can happen in this town. And if it's that same kid that escaped, maybe he would be a little crazy. Like, I agree. Most people aren't going to think the worst of someone, but if that already happened, I'd feel like I would think, okay, bad things like this could happen.
It's a very isolated incident.
True, and I guess you could be like, he was a kid, so what did he know?
Well, the kid that played Michael Myers grew up to be a very handsome man.
Will Sandon, he comes to a lot of Halloween conventions. Yeah, he's like now our age, which is so. God. No, wait, no, he can't be because I wasn't alive on Halloween. He's like 10 years older.
Yeah,
the little kid. But so he takes them to the Myers house, and they see that the house has been broken into because there's a half-eaten dog there. Thank God they don't show it because I don't want to see a dead half-eaten dog. But Eaten, yeah.
Michael Myers ate the dog?
Yeah, remember they said a man wouldn't do this, and then Donald Pleasant says, this isn't a man, and he says he got hungry. Did we watch the same movie?
We
Tim?
did. I must have been looking at my phone.
No, it's
Just
okay.
kidding. No, I was totally paying attention, but
It's okay. You're talking to someone who's seen it so many times.
I mean, I
recognize
definitely, I know the movie, but
No, I don't expect everybody to know it in as much detail as me. I'm a little bit obsessed. I'm a little bit of a fanatic, and that's okay.
it's just a little crush.
Hey, he just stole some rope, knives, and a Halloween mask. Gotta be kids.
Okay, you girls have fun. Just smoke up that pot.
Yeah, keep smoking that pot, girls. Not gonna smell it. Anyway, so we also shift to Annie and Lori are babysitting Tommy and Lindsay across the street from each other. And this is the two houses where most of the action takes place. Annie is with Lindsay Wallace, who is played by Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Kyle Richards.
Yes, and her husband, who after 27 years is now dancing with the stars.
And they're divorcing, right?
Yeah, well,
That's sad.
to be determined.
So now Kyle Richards at this time, she plays like an 8-year-old girl. So she's a little girl who just loves watching horror movies and sitting in the dark.
In pigtails and a cute little jumper.
Yes, and Lori is babysitting Tommy Doyle, who was the little kid who was asking her all the questions at the beginning. But this is what I find the funniest about this movie. First off, like, my parents never ditched me on Halloween when I was a kid. They wanted to take me trick-or-treating.
Well, you know the original title. What was it going to be called?
The Babysitter Murders.
That's why.
But I'm just saying, like, did your parents ever ditch you when you were a little kid on Halloween?
No.
Yeah, exactly. So the second thing I think is weird is that neither one of these kids wanted to go trick-or-treating.
I hate that I'm saying, by the way, my brother went as Boy George once for Halloween.
That's amazing. Wait, your gay brother or your straight brother?
Gay.
I was going to say, if it was a straight brother, I would have been so impressed. But the gay brother makes sense.
My brother went as Boy George.
And your straight brother was what, like a football player?
I think the gayest costume my oldest brother did, who's straight, was Kiss.
That's an awesome costume, though, with
Remember
the makeup.
when Kiss was like it?
Kiss it?
Kiss it.
So they decide to focus a lot on Annie. There's a scene where she's making popcorn, spills butter on herself, and has to take off all her clothes to put in the laundry.
I mean, who cares to get a little butter on you?
I mean, it looked like she must have spilled butter on everything but her underwear, because she puts it on the laundry, and then the dog has been barking, and she's like, get that. She's so negative. Get that dog away from, stop that dog from barking.
Like, what is little Lindsay going to do with that huge dog?
And then the dog whimpers, and you see that Michael Myers has killed him. Luckily, we don't see like a knife go in. You just kind of see the dog slither down, and Michael Myers kills him. Yeah, that's the second dog in the movie. But Annie's happy because no more barking, right?
I will say this. Who likes a barking dog?
Yeah. There's some really good scenes where you see Michael watching her in the window, like through the kitchen.
And then he just throws a plant down.
Yes, it's like he's just playing jokes.
He's funny like that.
He's like, hey, you hear that plant? That was me. Gotcha.
Kooky.
So then there's one of the great scenes where it's talk about like a fake out. Annie goes to do laundry, and the laundry room is a spooky little room in the backyard, and she goes in there. And there are so many times when you see Michael's face through the window and you think he is going to grab her. She's dead. When I was a kid, the first time I saw this, didn't you think he was going to kill her there?
Oh, yeah. And I feel bad for anyone who has a
disconnected laundry room.
Yes.
I would never want to leave my house. I don't think I would do laundry.
Well, first off, when you're babysitting, do you have that much time to do a load? That's what she said.
So she gets stuck in the laundry room, and her boyfriend Paul is calling. Lindsay answers, and thank God Lindsay comes out there, gets her out of the laundry room before Annie gets killed by Michael Myers. And Annie makes Lindsay promise not to tell Paul she got stuck. But what does she do, Tim?
She tells him.
The first thing Lindsay does on the phone says she got stuck in the window. And so Annie says,
she literally strips down her pants, her shirt, everything.
She has a man's shirt over, and she's in her underwear.
It's like that sexy look, like when you're like, I wear a businessman shirt after doing it.
Oh yeah, it's so long. It's like a nightgown. Yeah. So she decides she wants to go pick up her boyfriend, and being the shitty babysitter she is going to pawn Lindsay off on Lori, the responsible one. And she takes Lindsay across the street
wearing a blanket.
Yes. And she says to Lori, like, look, will you watch Lindsay? I got to go pick up Paul. And Lori's like, what the fuck? She didn't say it, but apparently Annie had already told, Lori had confided in her and say she had a crush on Ben Tramer, and good old Annie just told Ben Tramer, told his friends. So she said, if you watch Lindsay, I'll tell him or tell him I was just joking around and make sure like you're not embarrassed. I was just like, you already caused this. That's not doing me a favor. That's just covering your mess.
Yeah, she's real. That's what I'm saying. Like watching this movie, Annie is just not likable.
Very self-absorbed. She's just like, even when she's babysitting, hey, you watch the kid. I'm going to go meet my boyfriend.
But I guess that's a good writing because I'm feeling something.
And the thing is that I think there are a lot of self-absorbed teenagers. There's also, like Annie, there's a lot of responsible teenagers like Laurie. So it gave you two archetypes that I think teens can identify with. Which one were you, Tim?
Of course, I'm Laurie.
I know. I was Laurie too, but I wasn't quiet. I was a bookworm, but I wasn't quiet.
I walked past books.
I was never dating a lot, and I was never like, where can I go fuck? Because I was gay and didn't know it. So
no, I'm sure you knew it, but you ain't dealing with that yet.
No, not yet. So we get the first death soon because Annie goes.
That's what Halloween's really missing.
Death?
No, a gay character.
Oh, yeah. Annie goes, and first the door to the car is locked. She goes in to get the keys, and when she comes back, the door's unlocked, and she notices it right when she gets inside, and she also notices that the windows are fogged up, and what happens?
He's in the backseat.
And it's scary because they have a big like jump music like beat, and he's strangling her. Ooh, and it's taken forever.
It's a very unnerving scene.
It is because she's like choking and she's trying to beep the horn, and then apparently Michael just got frustrated and he just slices her throat.
Yeah, he's like, this girl's bugging.
He's like, bitch, can you die already? But John Carpenter does not show blood at all in that scene, which I respect that he didn't want to show a lot of blood. I will say,
so when he slits her throat,
you don't see one drop of blood. That's a little weird because the first thing when you slice someone's throat is blood
Friday
pours
13th,
out.
Scott?
Blood. You see a little bit of blood later, but he didn't. Again, John Carpenter wanted to set out not to make like a gore fest. But I agree. I will say it could have been like a few drops.
But I mean, like the one film before Halloween is Black Christmas, and was there a lot of blood in Black Christmas?
No, I mean the first girl gets even when Margot Kidder is getting stabbed with the unicorn, I think you see drops of blood.
Yeah, and at the end you see Peter's face. We're giving away the ending to Black Christmas.
My god! Yeah, no, there's not a lot of blood. There isn't. So anyway, what's great is that as Laurie's babysitting across the street, Tommy Doyle happens to see Michael Myers walking with Annie's body around the side of the house and in the front door, and he starts yelling, "It's the boogeyman," scaring Lindsay. And Laurie's like, there's no boogeyman, because every time Laurie looks outside, he's gone. And I will say, I get it. You don't trust little kids, but if the kid keeps saying he's seeing someone outside. And it's not like
he was saying it jokingly. He was saying it like, oh my God.
And also, like, Laurie's convinced that Tommy's just obsessed with this fake character, the boogeyman. But if I was babysitting someone, they said, I saw someone outside the house where your friend's babysitting, I would at least give him a call. And Laurie doesn't.
Right. So that is why she deserves everything that's coming to her.
Well, next, we do get a few scenes where Dr. Loomis is still hanging out at the Myers house. He plays a little joke on some neighborhood kids who are daring each other to go up to the Myers house because it's known as the haunted house, and he sits in a behind a bush and yells at one of them, Lonnie, and says, "Do it, Tim."
No, I don't know. I don't have it down.
Hey, Lonnie, get your ass away from there. So we're back to now we got to bring in Linda, PJ Souls, and she and her boyfriend Bob have arrived at Annie's house where they think they're going to be able to have sex, and they're drinking tons of beer.
They're literally drinking and driving.
I mean, drinking and driving. There's cans all over the car, and they go into the house, and they're shocked at first to see that nobody is there.
I will say that house in particular, with all the lights off,
it's creepy.
It's creepy. And it definitely reminded me of my childhood. Just all the houses looked like that.
Yeah, it's very, even though it was filmed in like West Hollywood, California, it looks very Midwestern neighborhood. And, Tim, you confirmed that because I haven't lived in the Midwest, but they did a good job.
That's why to this day, I think Halloween succeeds on that level of capturing the Midwest in
quiet little towns.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So Linda calls up Laurie and she's like, where's Annie? Where's Lindsay? And she's like, oh, I have Lindsay and Annie went to go see Paul. And so Linda is so excited because her and Bob have this stranger's house to themselves, and they immediately go upstairs to fuck in the parents' bedroom.
Which, wow, that is so ballsy.
Bold. That first off,
and beautiful.
There's a couple things. Number one, they don't know Annie's dead. Annie could be coming home any second, and they could be fucking. Number two, they don't know when the Wallace parents are coming home. They could be coming home. So,
and what? I like that the Wallaces put a pumpkin next to their bed.
Yeah, so there's a pumpkin lit next to the bed, and this is a big scene where they're doing like sex for a little bit. And
They're doing sex,
and the phone keeps ringing, and they don't answer it. And I just kept thinking, like, What if that was the Wallace parents?
Like,
what if,
hey, we'll be home in 10.
I know, but of course, if some random teenager answered, then that wouldn't be good either. So they put the phone off the hook. Always smart in a horror movie.
Right. Well, they don't know they're in one.
Yes, I know. So Bob says he's going to go get them a beer.
Give me a beer.
Yes, so Bob goes downstairs and we get to another iconic scene because he hears some noises and it's very dark and creepy. And then Michael pops out of a closet. He came out of the closet.
That's right. He's gay now.
Yes, Michael's gay now, and he holds Bob up and he stabs him through a cupboard door, and he's just hanging there. And
no blood. With that close up on his feet, I thought there'd be like a little blood.
I know, like a trickle of blood, but then Michael kind of like, he admires his work. And this is a big thing that Nick Castle, who played Michael Myers in this movie, says, like he tilts his head back and forth and it gives it that extra bit of creepy.
Jason does it too.
Jason does?
Yeah.
Well, then they stole it.
And Jason Takes Manhattan. Remember, he looks at that little thing and he's like,
right.
head tilt.
It's like the recognition tilt, you know?
Right. Like, hey, I'm doing shit.
But back then it was more like, it's almost like he's admiring his handiwork. And so then, actually, I keep saying every scene's like iconic, but this may be one of the most memorable scenes of the movie.
It is a classic.
Yeah. So PJ Souls is in bed. She's filing her nails. And Michael decides to put a sheet over him and Bob's glasses. So it looks like he's Bob playing a trick on Linda. And you see just Michael covered in the sheet with the glasses. And PJ Souls has her famous line. She drops her sheet to show a little bit of her boobs and says, "See anything you like?"
It is literally 1 second.
You see like a tiny bit of nipple. That's it. And then she says, Tim, do you remember the next one? Because I know you...
something got your goat.
Can't... Your goat?
What?
She says, "Can't I get your ghost, Bob?" Can't I get your goat? If she said goat, it would be a totally different movie.
Oh, dear.
That's hilarious. Tim, can I get your goat?
Sure.
What if he's like, "Hey, yeah, he's down on the farm. Can you go?"
Yeah.
So Michael, of course, is not moving, just sitting there breathing heavy. And she's like, "Are you going to answer me?" And it starts getting weird.
This is going nowhere.
She says, "I'm going to call Lori." So she goes to the phone with her back turned and starts to call Lori. And Michael starts approaching her. And right when Lori answers the phone, he puts the phone cord around her neck and starts strangling her. And what does Lori hear on the other end? That was really good. Keep going, Tim.
No, it's gross.
Oh my God. So Lori is like, she's like, all right, first I get the chewing, now I get you're playing a joke on me.
She's dying. She's pulling off the sheet. So it's revealed that it is Michael Myers.
Yeah, it's Michael who had the sheet on. And then Lori's starting to worry because the joke keeps going on. And then it's quiet. And then she says, "Annie." She thinks it's Annie. And Michael holds the phone up to his face. And that is the first time in the movie you get the first clear close up of his mask. And it's terrifying because you don't see any eyes. It's just like black there. And you see him listening. The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. You see him listening to Lori. And then Lori tries to call back and the phone doesn't, it just keeps ringing. So she knows something is up.
Bong, bong.
Yes.
Bong.
She puts the kids to bed. And she decides she's going to go over to the house and explore because, she hasn't heard from Annie.
She's like Dora the Explorer.
She's like Dora. She's like, hey, it's only Halloween night. I've been followed.
I want to check around this big house.
She's like, I've been followed all night. Some kids stole a knife, rope, and some masks.
She goes, this kid freaked out saying he saw some stuff.
Someone called me and was choking. Annie, I hasn't been heard from all night. So everything's good.
Yeah, nothing wrong here.
And right around this time, Dr. Loomis, who's been standing outside the Myers house all night, finally looks across the street and sees that the car that Michael stole is parked down the street a little. So
I wonder if he was a good parker.
He knows. It looked like a good parking job, which apparently he's a great driver. No experience. Great driver.
We need to focus on his smartness.
I think someone around there gave him lessons. What do you think, Tim?
Absolutely.
So Dr. Loomis realizes he's somewhere on that street and he tells the sheriff and he starts investigating. Lori does this very long walk across the street and the music is perfect and it's dark and there's nobody out. And she goes to this dark house where we as viewers know, oh my God, the killer's there waiting for her. All her friends are dead. This is... It just really builds the tension.
Oh, I agree. And if you watch the movie, her hair changes 50 times in the end.
Yes, Tim and I were joking because pay attention to this. People who are going to watch this, which I hope after listening to this. When Lori is upstairs with the kids saying goodnight, her hair is kind of curly and it has a curl at the bottom. As soon as she gets to the bottom of the stairs, her hair's perfectly straight.
Yeah, it's like
those
it's
stairs
blown out.
Those stairs straighten her hair like no other.
Stairs tend to do that.
You know, when I go up and down stairs, Tim, my hair just changes color.
I know, you get a little bounce.
It gets it's just that little bounce, little something extra.
Shampoo.
She wants to look best for Michael. You know, this is her big like.
Cute.
So she goes into the house. It's completely dark, no lights on. She's yelling for Annie and Bob and Linda, and she hears something upstairs, and she walks upstairs and she sees down the hall that bedroom door. It's slightly ajar and the lights are on, and she creaks it open and she sees Annie's body is displayed there with her throat slashed.
And Michael took a huge tombstone up those stairs that says Judith Myers.
He took from his sister's burial site, her tombstone, sets it up with Annie's dead body there.
So it's a really cool image. It has Annie, and that's the first time there is a little blood sprawled on there. And it has behind her, it says Judith Myers. And then to the right or left, I can't remember, there's the pumpkin.
Yes. So
Happy Halloween.
So Jamie Lee Curtis is starting to freak out. And then she kind of falls to the side. And then who pops out his dead body swinging through the closet? Bob. And she screams. And then she sees behind in another closet Linda's dead body. And it's all at once.
And PJ Souls did an excellent job.
She looked dead. Really dead.
Yeah,
and
because in other horror films, people can't pull that.
I know people look like they're just hanging out. So Lori is terrified. She's hysterical and leaning on the banister. And this, I know I've said iconic scenes. This to me is the most iconic shot because she's sitting there, and then the darkness behind her, slowly the white of Michael's mask starts appearing slowly until he comes up behind her and stabs her in the shoulder, and she falls over the banister to the bottom of the stairs.
They throw the camera over the banister.
Yeah, it really looks like you're her twirling over the banister, and she's obviously hurt her leg. And this is where the big chase starts. And the music, Tim,
dun dun,
bum,
dun dun,
bum bum,
yeah,
bum, and then ding 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 ding.
Right, and then she goes into the kitchen, and then she does shut the door and lock it.
Yeah,
and then she's like, why does she? Oh, well, she just fell down a flight of stairs. So she's laying down in front of this. The windows are glass.
Yeah, it's the way out to the backyard, but there is a rake in front of the doorknob.
Michael thought of everything.
Yes, he did, and she can't get out. And Michael, even though she closed that door, he punches through it.
He's got some strength.
Opens it, and he's on his way to get her. And finally, Lori's just
damn,
fuck
I'm
this.
I'm gonna take two of my hands and bash it through the square window.
Yeah, she bashes through the window, breaking the glass so she can move the rake, and she gets out just in time. And then she just starts running through the neighborhood, screaming bloody murder. She's first screaming, help me. She goes to next door to someone. They turn on the lights, and then they turn them off. And they turn them off because I think I guess everybody gets pranked. She's literally screaming for her life, and they won't even open their door to ask her if she's okay. They just think she's lying.
Go to bed.
Go to bed, bitch. And she goes, so she runs across back to where she's her babysitting, and she realizes she's lost the keys, and she starts screaming for Tommy to get the door.
She throws it up.
She throws a plant up to break Tommy, and Tommy is moving so slow.
She said to break Tommy.
To break the window to get Tommy's attention. And she is but this scene is done so well because the camera keeps showing Michael approaching her across the street, and he's getting closer, and he's getting closer, and he's getting closer. And right before he can get to her, Tommy finally opens the door and lets her in.
She goes, do it now!
She's at that point, I would have been like, you fucking slowpoke. Because I would have taken time to yell at the kid.
Right. Teach him a lesson.
So Tommy's freaking out, and she's like, go upstairs with Lindsay now. And she stays downstairs, but she sees one of the side windows is open.
And guess who's in the house?
Guess who's already now? So she kind of slinks down to the couch. She grabs a knitting needle, and then he jumps up from behind the couch to try and stab her.
And she sticks the needle right in his neck. He pulls it out, and the way he falls to the ground is so bizarre.
It's like, boom.
He's like, ugh.
Now, I will say a needle, knitting needles are long, but to really kill someone, you'd have to really shove it in. So she gets in his neck and he falls over.
So
but
then
she thinks she's safe.
She takes the time to look over the couch with holding the knife, and then she's like, okay, everything's over.
I would have looked too because you want to see if he's okay, but I would never trust that a knitting needle. A knitting needle barely poked into someone's neck would kill them.
Barely. I thought she got some force in there.
Well, I guess maybe, but what does she do then? She throws the knife down.
And even Jamie Lee Curtis has said, she's like, it's such a I don't want to say a crowd crowd pleaser, but it definitely gets the crowd.
Oh, they get so angry at her because Lori is such a resourceful person, but like that was probably the dumbest move that she makes.
Right. Not making it's a good thing when the audience is so invested that they want them to make good decisions, and this is her worst decision.
Yes, the worst decision. So she goes upstairs. She thinks everything's okay. She gets Tommy and Lindsay out there with her back to the stairs, and they're like, okay. And she says, "Don't worry, I killed the boogeyman." And Tommy says, "You can't kill the boogeyman." And this is terrifying because right behind her they turn and he's standing there with the knife.
Yeah. So doesn't she push him in a bathroom and she say, "Lock the door"?
Well, she pushes him in the other room, says, "Lock the door." She goes in like the bedroom.
She opens the two doors to make it look like she escaped, but in reality, it's another iconic scene.
It sounded like you said escaped. She is escaped. She was an ex who escaped. It's smart on her. She opens the balcony doors so it looks like, but then she hides in the flimsiest of all closets.
I remember those closets in Ohio.
Do they have those? Because I've never seen. It's this closet that you can, like, the doors, they're not like...
We have one in my kitchen.
They're just very, like, flimsy, and she tries to tie something around it, but Michael starts shaking it, and then he punches through it. And another iconic scene, because it's such a classic, she's sitting in there, like, screaming in the closet. She takes
the hanger and bends the wire hanger.
Very resourceful.
And then she jams it in his eyeball, right?
She jams in his eyeball, so he drops the knife, and then she quickly gets the knife, and she stabs him in the chest with it, and he finally falls over outside the closet.
It's a very, very good knife stab.
And it's like such quick thinking because you're in a closet. What can you turn into a weapon? She's smart enough to get one of the wire hangers. No more wire hangers.
Right. Mommy Dearest, 1981, Faye Dunaway. Check it out.
She bends it into like a spear and stabs him in the ear. So anyway.
You said the ear.
Sorry, not the ear, the eye. I'm so excited. I'm like all over the place.
You're living this movie right now.
I am. So she gets out of the closet.
She's now
gay too. Yeah. She has the knife, but then she throws it again. At least she throws it under the bed so he can't get it. But she thinks, I guess, okay, a stab to the eye and a stab with a knife. We're good.
Yeah. So then she walks over to like the hallway.
Yeah. Gets the kids out of their room.
And then Michael sits up and
not yet. She says to the kids, run down the street. I want you to go to the Mackenzies and I want you to, I want you to call the police and send them over here. And she sends them out. And while she sends him out, she just kind of slumps down with her back to the killer. I mean, she must be so confident she's killed him.
Confident.
And as the kids are running out of the house screaming, Dr. Loomis sees them and realizes,
he's like, hey, this might be the house.
This might be the house. I've been just walking around aimlessly all night. So he sees them and he starts to run inside right as Jamie Lee Curtis is starting to get up and walk away. But Michael Myers slowly sits up and starts walking toward her and approaching her and finally grabs her from behind and starts strangling her. Do it, Tim.
And these noises that JLC makes is like,
it's like a turkey on Thanksgiving.
She kind of gets his mask off a little bit.
Oh, yeah, we do get a quick shot of his face. Now, funny enough, Nick Castle, who played Michael Myers most of the time, did not do the scene where they showed his face. That was Tony Moran. So you see like a guy who his eye's a little messed up.
Tony Moran, was he in Friday the 13th Part 5 A New Beginning?
No idea. No idea.
Oh, okay.
But you see him for just a second and he puts his mask back on right when Dr. Loomis gets to the top of the stairs and shoots him. And then like he follows him into the room and he shoots him 6 times total and Michael falls off the balcony. And you're thinking, oh my God, 6 times, like shot him, fell off the balcony. We're good. He's dead.
Right. So Mr. Loomis walks over.
Mr. Loomis?
Well, is that his name?
Dr. Loomis.
Why do Well, I'm sure he responds to Mr. Loomis too.
No, you are very formal, Tim. Excuse me, I'm Mr. Loomis.
Excuse me, Mr. Loomis. Can you walk over to the balcony and see if Michael Myers is dead there?
Actually, the funny thing is, Miss Doctor is probably more formal than Mr. Loomis, so I was the one being more formal.
You're just an asshole.
I've just never known him not as Dr. Loomis. It's so funny. Like Mr. Yo, Loom, what you up to?
I haven't watched the movie 200 times. I've maybe watched it 50 times.
I feel like I'm such a
perfectionist.
Perfectionist with this movie, only this movie because I care so much. I promise listeners, I'm not such an annoying control freak with most movies. It's just I love this movie so much. You bitch. When we talk about Friday the 13th, you've corrected me on a lot of things too because I don't know every detail. So
Betsy Palmer needed a new Scirocco.
So, but before he looks over the banister, they do have like one line together where he looks at Jamie Lee Curtis, and I'm sure she's like, "Who the fuck is this?" But thanks for saving my life.
No, she was like, man with the gun, I'm trusting him.
Yeah, she says it was the boogeyman, and Dr. Loomis thinks for a sec.
Doesn't she say, what is the boogeyman?
No, she says it was the boogeyman, and he says, as a matter of fact, it was.
All these years, I thought she said, what is the boogeyman?
Even while we watch with subtitles.
Listen, I'm busy.
Yeah, she says there are some people that thought, no, she says it was, like, meaning, oh my God, this thing Tommy was talking about all night, it actually could be fucking true, you know? And that's
finally those kids
that's powerful.
It was powerful.
So Dr. Loomis goes to look over the banister, and what do you know? He's gone.
And then this is really, really cool. The movie takes all the shots of the neighborhoods and the houses, and like, because as a moviegoer, you're like, he's out there. So when, you know what I mean? Like it's an unnerving ending.
It's such a perfect ending because they do show glimpses of every location he had been throughout the movie, like whether it was the stairs or across the street in the house or a bedroom or outside. And you just see no one there, but you hear him breathing. So it's almost like he's here, he's everywhere.
Queer, get used to it.
Yeah, he could be out there. And it's such a perfect ending because it's like, you don't know where he is, but he's going to come to get you. That's what makes the idea of the boogeyman so scary, is that he could be anywhere. And then it just goes to credits with that music. And it's just so perfectly executed and so creepy because it's like she lives and he saved the day, but at the same time, he's still out there. And that's kind of how the movie ended. Watching. Keep repeating. Yeah.
No, so I guess at the end of all of this, I guess we all agree Halloween 4 is the best one. Thank you.
And you know what? Look, what's great about this movie is they've not made any sequels. They have not.
Yeah, they should look into it.
Yeah, they really should maybe continue this story, like maybe with Halloween 2 or 4 and 5 and 6, and then maybe new timeline with H2O and Resurrection, then maybe remake it with Rob Zombie 1 and 2, and then maybe do another timeline and do 40 years later with 2018 and Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. Just a few.
Right. But I think you forgot Resurrection.
No, that was the sequel, the inferior sequel to H2O.
Remember, because she had a kissing scene with Michael?
I mean, it wasn't like they were making out. She just kisses him and says, I'll see you in hell. You like that, Tim?
I liked it. Yeah.
Anyway, look, I mean, you know my feelings on this movie. First off, I would hope people who like the movie, I have a feeling, watch it every October. We go to screenings of it. We see it all the time. I love this movie. I feel like it should be everyone's Halloween tradition. It's so perfect for the season, and it's just such a great horror movie. And I get that younger people may not see the beauty in a slower movie like this, but
right. No, I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing, Matt.
That's what I say.
I'm going to tell you.
So now I'm going to say, by the way, Tim, by the way.
That's just me. You know what by the way stands for?
What?
But the hell out. See?
Wait, what?
Exactly. No, I'm kidding. I have nothing to say. No, this is what I was going to say. Generations that started with Scream, it's a fast-paced MTV style thriller. So it's just our childhood.
I know. But what I hope people realize is that the people who made and created Scream, like Kevin Williamson, who we had on the podcast, who wrote it, was inspired by Halloween. That's like his favorite movie. And Wes Craven, who directed it, did Nightmare on Elm Street, which is a slow burn also. So it's like, yes, we have Scream, but even the people who made Scream were inspired by these older movies. And then there's people like us
inspired by Teen Witch.
We're inspired. He totally threw me off.
Sorry.
That was a good one. I mean, we are inspired by Teen Witch. So there you go, everyone. Thank you. No, top that. Oh, God.
I'm sorry. You were saying so.
I was just saying, even nicely. People like us who find movies that come out today that we love, still, our love for these older classics like Friday the 13th and Halloween never wavers, because we know not only did they start these genres that we love, like the slasher genre, but to me, they still they still play out well today. They still hold up. They still are effective. You
know, as Nev Campbell said so eloquently. Thank you. I can't say it.
As Tim Murdoch said so eloquently.
Right. In Scream 4, don't fuck with the original.
Exactly. I mean, I know that Halloween 4 is your favorite and it's totally cool. To me, even though there are a bunch of sequels I really do love, Halloween, the original, 1978, nothing surpasses it. I will say this, though. My favorite sequels are Halloween 2, not Rob Zombie's, the 1981, Halloween 4, the one you love, H2O, and Halloween 2018. Those are my 4 favorite sequels.
Well, where's Halloween 5 on that?
Somewhere lower down.
Okay.
But I love Tina. I do. And I have even more appreciation for her when we talk to
Wendy Kaplan.
Yeah, or Wendy Foxworth. Foxworth?
I think so.
Yeah. Why did I forget her last name? It's just like, I don't know, something I always was like, she was such a vibrant character in part 5, but I liked her, but sometimes I thought
like
it was a little annoying. But then we talked to her and I just got this love and appreciation for her and the character so much more. So listen to that interview if you haven't with Halloween 5-Star, because she never goes to conventions, but she talked about it with us, which was really awesome. And we were so grateful. So that is Halloween. I will say for people listening who aren't patrons, because this episode's available to everyone, I'll do this one little plea or plug. Sorry, not plea.
Well, I first off want to say before we wrap up, I just want to say, can you believe all this passion from Matt Emmert over Halloween? I am sitting here listening to this being like, this guy's nuts.
I thought you were going to say, because I was going to say, is it endearing or is it annoying? It's very
sweet. No, I mean, like, Halloween's my favorite, but I haven't seen it 200 times.
I'm sorry, everyone. I'm a little over the top on this episode.
Don't apologize for loving your movie.
I've been so excited to talk about this movie. I thank you, Tim, for indulging in me to let me talk like this. Oh my God, I had a blast talking to you. And I thank patrons for letting us pick this month's movie versus putting up to a vote. We wanted to wait till October and we wanted a chance to do this movie. But for all of our listeners out there who aren't patrons, if you sign up to be a patron, you get access to all of our monthly bonus episodes where we usually put the themes up to a vote, and we always talk about movies from the past. We come up with fun themes and you vote on them and pick which ones you're going to hear us discuss. You also get our monthly newsletter, which is written by our lovely producer, Jacob, and he talks about everything we're up to and what's coming for the month. You get a sneak preview into our interviews and our episodes. You get autographed Happy Horror Time stickers. You get all of our episodes one day early and ad-free through Patreon, so you don't have to listen to those pesky ads. And I think that's it right now.
Matt's impersonation of Blossom.
You get a special impersonation of Blossom, and you get Tim's nudes if you're lucky.
No one's lucky.
You don't take those kind of pictures.
I don't.
Though.
I mean, if you get them, it's on Snapchat. Whoop, whoop.
Oh,
just kidding.
Okay, so you get Tim's nudes if you're on Snapchat and he's feeling frisky.
Matt, do not talk about Denise Richards on OnlyFans.
Oh my God, she is on OnlyFans. What a weird non sequitur. Anyway, so consider signing up to be a patron. It's patreon.com/Happy Horror Time. That's patreon.com/Happy Horror Time. But we love you anyway. Even if you're not a patron, we love all our listeners, and we're so fortunate to do this and to talk about these movies we love. So thank you.
Yes. Have a wonderful spooky season.
Yes. Have a wonderful Halloween. Watch Halloween. Get into it and tell us if you think that the sheriff should have smelled the pot in the car.
Well, he probably did, but it's his daughter. He looks the other way.
And now she's dead. Good one, Sheriff Brackett.
Good job.
Okay. Anyway, thanks, everyone.
Bye.